There we are. Hi, Megan.
Hi, how are you?
I'm doing great. It's so nice to have you on today on our Agent Spotlight. I am Kristen Agan, team leader for the Keller Williams Pinellas County Chadwick Group. And Megan, I'm going to let you introduce yourself and where you're from. Go ahead and tell us a little about who you are and where you're at.
All right. I work with the Sandy Hartman team as their listing coordinator. Started out as Sandy's executive assistant, and then just transitioned into the role when the girl was there that stepped out and helped her revise some processes and get her a little more tech savvy in the position. I come from West Virginia, moved to Florida when I came to Florida State, and just kept moving further south to be closer to my grandparents who were aging out, and have been in real estate since I graduated in 2005. I have worked in the commercial sector. That's where I got my start. And I worked for CB Richard Ellis in Tampa for a few years. And then I switched over to residential, and I was with Broderick and Associates before I joined Keller Williams.
Okay. So since 2005, so we're going on 15 years.
I know.
Okay, and neither of us said it. Megan, neither of us said it. So let's say your last name. So it's Meghan Napolitano.
Yeah, that's
Did I get it right? Okay, good. Well, welcome to our Agent Spotlight, and we're excited to talk to you today because you are you are in a crucial, vital role in one of our top teams in Keller Williams, and has such a great reputation. And I know that every single player on that team is responsible for that great reputation and what you are able to accomplish together as a team. And we were talking earlier, it's really important for us to highlight all the different roles that we have within the real estate world. I don't know about you, but when I started, I knew there was a real estate agent, and that's all I knew.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right?
Keller Williams offers a lot of options.
Right. So what we want to talk about today is really your path to getting into the role that you have on the Hartman team, and then also is it team or group? I never know with the Sandy Hartman.
I think we're team.
You are team. Okay, I want to make sure I'm saying that right for the Hartman team. Very good.
I'm sorry. For our name is the Hartman Group. I thought classification team.
Okay,
yeah.
Okay, it is a group. Okay, that's what I was never sure if I was saying it right. For the Hartman Group, I want to say it right. We want to hear what your role is there and what you really do on a day-to-day basis. So you fast forwarded through that. So what I heard is you've been in real estate for 15 years. You started out on the commercial side. So were you doing leasing of commercial properties or selling of commercial properties?
I did a little bit of the support work there as well. I did a lot of marketing. So I was putting together a lot of packages and books for like multi-million-dollar properties. I worked for a small group called the Private Client Group within CB that was very distinguished and did a lot of shopping centers. So that's kind of how I got my start, that and working for a couple office brokers, doing their floor plans and putting their like booklets together for their office leases and sales.
Okay. All right. And so then you said you transferred over to residential. So tell us what that path was getting into residential real estate and what you did once you first started in residential.
Well, I moved away from Florida and moved to Kansas because I married someone in the military.
Okay.
And when I came back from Kansas, I found an opening with a small company that allowed me some flexibility that I needed at the time. And it's just kind of worked out, and, was with them for 5 years and then ended up making my way over to Sandy's team.
All right. So when those 5 years with them, you were selling real estate?
I sold real estate. I did support for their auction group. I did support for the broker, and I also did a support for his partner. So I was supporting 4 agents and also doing sales.
Okay, so you were wearing many hats at that point. And when you say supporting, were you doing the transaction coordinating, the marketing?
Everything.
Okay, everything.
Yeah.
Scheduling appointments? Were you scheduling appointments?
Not so much for them because they were a team for the most part. Now, with 2 of the gentlemen, they were elderly, so I did a lot more for them than the 2 younger guys, just because they were more tech savvy and could do a little more on their own. But basically anything they needed, I did, including showings and everything. So.
All right. So you said you married a military guy. tell us a little bit about your family life.
So not married to the military anymore. That's okay. No, I am married and I have a special needs stepson, which is why I'm actually not in sales full time, because with him being as special needs as he is, I do need to have a steady income, because we probably see somewhere between 6 to 8 doctors a month and have at least 2 or 3 surgeries a year.
Oh, wow.
So it's a little involved. So I needed something a little more steady personally. Yeah. So it's really nice that the Hartman Group gives me the flexibility to still, I can do sales if I want to. I haven't wanted to go that path lately. I mean, I've had a little bit on my hands, but I like that they offer me the flexibility if I'd like to.
Right. And I love what you just said. We talk a lot about a life by design, and you've got a special circumstance there with your son that you really needed to be able to find a path within this, I'm assuming, this career that you love, that since you've dedicated 15 years of your life to it, and please correct me if I'm wrong, yet you needed to find a path that could allow you to take care of your son, and I love that you found that opportunity here. So when you came to Keller Williams, did you go directly onto the Hartman team?
I did. Our office hadn't even really officially opened in Seminole yet. And Tracy Erickson, the old team lead, had called me, like cold called me and said, oh, I want to meet. And I probably blew her off 3 or 4 times. I was like, I don't have time for this. I work full time. I've got a special needs son. Like, I can't do this. And she's like, please just meet me for coffee. And finally I gave in. And then she's like, I know this great woman that's hiring. And like I said, I didn't actually come in on this position. I came in as her executive assistant and was doing things directly for Sandy, not for the team when I first started.
Okay, so tell us about that role. What was your role as executive assistant? What tasks did you do? What did you do every day?
I would say pretty much anything that was asked. A lot of phone calls, a lot of research, showings when needed, a lot of the paperwork, a lot of some of the stuff that I still do now. Just because Sandy is so busy, she gets a little more support than a little bit of everybody else, and she just keeps me on my toes. A lot of making sure that the calendar's not missed, because she is one busy lady.
Right. So what do you think qualified you to take on that role back when, 5 years ago when you first stepped onto this team?
Yeah, I like to, it shouldn't joke, but I say I'm OCD. I'm very organized, very process driven. And I think when you've got someone that's moving at all speeds at all times, they need that organization on the backside to keep them moving at warp speed. Mm-hmm. And so I think it was a nice compliment to what she needed to keep her doing everything she's doing without balls getting dropped in the process.
All right. So you're the organizer behind the power of the team moving forward. Okay, in that role. And so when did you transition? Did you have any transitions between executive assistant to listing manager? Is that your current title?
Listing coordinator. I mean,
listing coordinator?
Whatever hat they want to put on me for that day, I'm good with.
Right.
There wasn't really much of a transition. The girl that was in the position she left and went out to be an agent on her own. And so I stepped up helping with that role. And like I said, because I'm so process driven, it just made sense. A lot of the things that they had been doing at the time weren't very tech savvy, because the person in my position wasn't. And so I streamlined a lot of things, put a lot of it online. And then we really sat down. I wrote a manual of how I do my day to day. And we put just like a task list together so that everything is straightforward. So even if I'm out for the day, people will still know what's going on. And so the ball doesn't get dropped when, someone's on vacation.
We call those systems.
Exactly.
Systems in place so that it's not dependent on one person. that we all can know what needs to be done if the crucial person isn't there to do it. So I love that. So when you said you put a lot of things online, tell us more about what you did to streamline and put the business online.
So one of the bigger things that for my position is I do a lot of feedback follow-up, because if you have, 25 listings and you're having tons of showings on each one every day, you're constantly following up. And it used to be handwritten in a book, and it would just be like an all-day thing. And then kind of trying to get that information to the rest of the team was never easy. And so we got rid of a book. I put together a spreadsheet. We put it online. Then we were able to put it up on the computer in our team meetings. everything was just easier. I could email it to the team so that they could have their feedback at any time, which was nice. And then, like I said, just even writing processes down that may or may not have been there and putting them in that manual for everyone. And then TP is probably a huge help for us. We do a lot of checklist in there. So getting everything set up. I mean, I probably spent the first 2 months doing nothing but TP with Sandy, because it's the heart of everything. Your database has to be consistent in order for you to get ahead and be doing the things you need to do.
Right.
So we've done a lot more activities and things that we needed to follow up that maybe no one had time before that. So we started doing a lot of that stuff too.
On Reading and Read this morning, Rachel and Michael were talking about how the fortune is in the follow-up. We've all heard that phrase over and over again. And if you don't have the systems in place to do that follow-up and then to make it useful, to whether it be, you were talking about the connection over people who'd looked at properties that you had listed. If you don't have that information useful so that you can use it and then take it to a seller and here's the feedback that we're getting, if it's just sitting around in a notebook that nobody's looking at, it's not providing any good. So the system around the follow-up is so important to actually use that information and that data to help sellers make good decisions, help them shape their next step, whether it's a price reduction or accepting an offer or whatever that is. It's so important to have the system around it. So very good.
Absolutely.
So on a day-to-day basis, and maybe we should talk prior to COVID and the pandemic, what was a day in the life of Meghan look like?
I take a lot of phone calls, pretty much nonstop. So I
Who
have
are
to
you talking to?
Clients, vendors, a random person that's known Sandy for 50 years.
Mm-hmm.
The phone rings, which is a good thing. So I take a lot of phone calls. So it's a lot of switching gears. I never get to really just like sit and do one thing at a time. It just doesn't work that way. So I'm answering calls, I'm entering listings, I'm making sure showing time set up so that we can have showings. I'm reaching out to agents for feedback on our showings. I am making sure that the pictures are getting done or aerials have been ordered. Anything that would go with the listing, making sure that we have all of our documents for compliance, making sure that we have all the signatures and initials. So it's a lot of compliance work, and then entering the listing and getting the listing running, communicating with the agents on what they need, having packages ready for them in my desk, because we're still some old school and like to do the print copies. So I always have those in the office. I order
listing packages.
Yeah, so we do listing packages. We also have marketing packages I put together. So there's always like a good array of those in my desk. We do a lot of, I print like a lot of the pink and blue sheets, our thank you cards, pretty much anything we'd need to contact the clients with, and then order supplies.
Are you the one
all day long?
Are you the one sending? Oh, sorry for the feedback. Are you the one sending the thank you cards?
I send some, and our closing coordinator sends some. So it depends. Like if we get a past client that refers us another person, we love to send them a handwritten thank you card. So I'll take care of those. I know that Yulia writes a thank you card in our little closing package that we give at closing that says thank you from all of us for, going through the process with us.
Mm-hmm. All right. Wonderful. So that's part of your task as well. So how has your world changed since the pandemic? Has anything changed, or are you still doing the same exact thing?
I think it's been a little bit of ways. I think when it first happened, we saw the listings slow down just a little bit. So I'd say April was a slow month. And I mean, we still took a couple listings, but I'm used to operating somewhere between at least 10 and 15 a month.
Mm-hmm.
So April was a little slower, and then I think Florida opened back up. May exploded back to normal. Everything was back to where it was. I think people maybe are a little bit more cautious because we're seeing some of these cases go up. So people are kind of like waiting, or you've got a lot of people that are trying to declutter and get ready to like actually have it market ready, which is nice.
Mm-hmm.
So I know the girls say they have some stuff coming up too. So we're just kind of waiting for it to kind of pick back up again. So we've just had an ebb and flow, I think, but we've had a lot on the contract side and a lot on the sales side. So that's good as well.
All right. So in addition, you said something and it made me wonder, in addition to preparing listing packets, is there anything that you do on your side to help an agent take a listing before it's taken?
Um, I offer more support to Sandy. So like I may fill out her paperwork before she goes to a listing appointment, the things that I can. I mean, I can't do a lot of the data sheet just because I haven't seen the house, but filling in the names, making sure that she signed her places, that all the check boxes are done, kind of things like that. So she gets a little more support, like I said, than the other agents. But more or less, it's just me getting a missed initial or a missed signature,
Mm-hmm.
mostly through DocuSign, or if somebody's out of town, I'll swing by and grab them in person if I need to.
Right. Do you do any CMAs?
The girls don't really ask for them unless they're in a real pinch, but occasionally it'll come up.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
I think everybody kind of has their own method and is what they're comfortable with. So like I said, if they're just in a pinch.
Right. Right. So, what you obviously are a vital role to this team. What do you feel like is the thing that you contribute the most to the team's success?
I think it comes back to my organization. I think because everybody's going in so many different directions, they know that if they call me, I can tell them what's happening 99% of the time. Maybe a little less so with all the COVID stuff going on, just because the interaction all day long is not there. But I think that they can always count on knowing that I'm going to be there to get what they need to the person that needs it. Or, if they're out, they can count on me to send out the document and things like that. So I think, just knowing that they have someone there that knows what's going on, that's not totally confused and said, well, what do you mean? I think that makes a big difference.
Right. So talk to me a little bit about the process of, you mentioned compliance and going through that part. What is your role and what do you do on a daily basis to move the file along and do the transaction coordinating part of this role?
I do some of it, but again, because we have a closing coordinator, we're kind of split with roles just because we are bigger. So I set up all the contacts in Command.
Okay.
And then I also set up the opportunity most of the time. We've got a few agents that'll set up an opportunity beforehand, but most of the time I'll set up the opportunity and then I upload documents. Again, coming back to my organization, and because I hate having files returned, I like to wait until I know I have everything before I submit it. Just take a little pressure off of Bob and Jody as well.
Yes.
So I think that helps. I make sure that everything's properly labeled. So even if you just see a random file somewhere, it's going to have a name. You're not just opening it to try to figure out what it is.
Mm-hmm.
And then Lane normally handles the contract side. So we'll take it up there. I think there's still some processes because I don't think Command has really nailed it for teams yet. So we're still kind of working through some of the nuances and getting that a little up to date. And Bob's been great about trying to push things along that need to be fixed.
Right. Very good. Well, I appreciate that feedback too. And it has definitely been for the agents and by the agents. And as the rollout of Command has happened, there's been a lot of great feedback that has helped to shape it and will continue to. And somebody like you who's written a P&G manual or a manual that actually moved forward, I'm sure has lots of great feedback in that area. So tell me a little bit about that. You put together a whole book of systems, it sounds like, a manual you called it. What was in that manual and how do you use it in your business and how does the group use it in their business?
So hopefully they never really need to use it other than when I'm on vacation.
Mm-hmm.
But basically, like I said, when we came in, it was kind of, we were all still piecing together. There were a lot of new people on the team and we had a lot of transitions for various reasons. And so I think it was like, oh, we all knew what we were doing. We had the general, but software changes, updates change, things that were once part of software may not be part of software at that point. So I just started with like what my task list would be. When a listing comes in, what do I have to do? What are the things that have to be done that day? What can be done the next day after it's gone live? And we started off with basically just organizing the schedule. So once I had the task list down, then I went and explained each task in depth in the pictures, whether I'd go to the website and take a snapshot, draw an arrow saying this is what you click on, then you go here. And I just literally basically tried to make it dummy proof and just step by step as easy as you could to say, okay, this is where I'd start. Like, so if I, pass away tonight, they're not going to lose their functionality either. They're going to just be like, okay, here's a manual. Megan said, do this. This is how we start the process. This is how we get in there. And, you know, and then as we have gone along, or as processes have changed, like going from dot loop to command, I've had to, you know, take that page out, start over, put the other one together, and just try to keep it up to date, mainly for, like I said, when we go out for vacation or something like that.
And do you refer back to it yourself as you're going through a process? I'm thinking of an example. Our MCAs, they close out their month every month, and still to this day, you know, they use a checklist to go through the process to make sure that they didn't miss anything, so that they, you know, that they're on track and that they didn't miss a crucial step in this process. And when we have so much flying at us every day, sometimes those manuals are crucial in just making sure that we've double checked our process. Do you use that in that way at all?
I would probably only use the manual when I'm updating it at this point, but I do use my checklist in TP religiously. Like if it wasn't for that, I probably would be crazy, because in addition to the listings, we have referrals, and I handle all the referral process as well. And I have to remember to check with the agent, call the client, make sure they're happy, follow up in a month, make sure we're still going on, find out when closing is, and continue to track until we get through. So between just even those that aren't a steady pace, you know,
Right.
that may take 6 months, could take a year. So the checklist and TP and activities are the only thing that probably keeps me somewhat sane.
Right. Okay. Very good. So at this point, you're using both Top Producer and Command. Is that correct? Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right. So you're using both to function and move through the transactions.
Yeah, I think a lot of the things that we like to do, because at this point, you know, Sandy's been in the business so long, she's very fortunate to have a very large database. And I think a lot of the things that we're still able to do in TP haven't been rolled out in Command. Maybe they will be in the future. So I think until we have all the functionality that we need, we'll continue to maintain both databases.
Mm-hmm. All right. All right. Very good. So I love that you're using it and you're getting to know it, and you're making it a part of your business to get the deals closed, and you're learning it and giving feedback, and that's all valuable from a top team like the Hartman Group. So very good. So if you were talking to somebody, a new agent that was looking at their roles, I just had a conversation with somebody who is, you know, exploring, what are my options? What do I have? What paths can I take here? What would you tell them about the path of becoming a listing coordinator and working in the operations side of a team?
I think it's probably just like anyone trying to find their spot, probably anywhere. I mean, I think that I believe, is it the KPA now? I think they've switched from the other one. Okay, so the KPA, just learning what your strengths are. I think sometimes we think we know, but sometimes when we see it clearly laid out, or people can say, oh, are you sure you're not this? Because I'm sure Bob loves to harass me on my disc profile. But I think even just knowing what your strengths are, because what I feel I'm good at in this position is because my organization. If I wasn't, I wouldn't be of use to anybody in this position, because they're looking at me to keep things straight. And if I wasn't organized, it's very easy to fall out of the rhythm and not even realize that the ball is getting dropped, because there's so many pieces. I think you have to be honest about how you want your life to look. Like you said, life by design. I think that's a big thing. You know, obviously on the agent side, you have flexibility with your schedule, where I'm more of a 9 to 5 employee. But for me, when my life, like I said, with my son, it was more important for us to have steady income. So I think, again, just what do you really want out of the position that you're taking, and what do you think makes you qualified for that position? I mean, I feel like that's kind of in any position that you would be looking for.
Great. I hear that. So now I've got to ask, what is your disc profile?
Oh, I'm pretty sure. Oh, I'm so bad at this, because I took the KPA after. So that was, I could tell you that one, but I don't remember what the disc is, but I know I think am I high D maybe?
Oh, high D. All
maybe.
right.
I'm not really sure if that's accurate or not. It's been 6 years since I took that, so I have no idea.
No worries. You just made reference to it, so then I was curious. I would have guessed other things. I'm thinking that when you keep talking, Megan, about your organizational skills. And obviously that's a high functioning part of your role, is to keep everybody organized. The part that you're not talking about directly, however you are indirectly, is your communication skills. Because it's one thing to be organized if you're not able to communicate to all the parties to keep everything moving in the right direction and keep everybody on schedule and make sure that all the tasks are completed. Then it doesn't matter how organized you are if you can't communicate about it. So obviously in your role you have strong communication skills to keep a team this big with this many moving parts moving in the right direction.
Well, unfortunately, it's not just me, so we have some help outside of me too, because it's a lot. I think it would be a lot for anyone, and we've got some really other great team members that have helped it all stay on track, which is nice, and all kind of rolling together. It's like a well-oiled machine at this point, and it's because everybody's putting in the work and, like you said, communicating with each other, because that is the biggest key.
Right, right. Well, I'm glad that you're talking about your other team members, because A, it shows what a team player you are, and B, you're right. We're highlighting you today. We've talked to Andrea in your group as well, and you both are on camera and having this opportunity to share your stories. Yet you're right, any group this large working together to achieve what you all have achieved, it's every person working together in their role. And I think that that's exactly what we're working to highlight today, is that there's not just one role in real estate. There are so many different functions, from listing coordinator to closing coordinator to listing manager, or lead listing agent is what I'm trying to say. Sorry.
Yeah. You got team managers, you got director of operations. I mean, there's quite a bit, even just in the admin portion of it.
Just in the operations side of it, exactly. There's so many different roles that really work together to make a successful team like this function and provide the awesome customer experiences to your customers, to your buyers and your sellers, so that they feel like they're the one customer that you're working with at the time, because all of these systems have been put in place back when you sat down and wrote that manual, so that you could assure going forward that every step along the way they were going to feel like the most important customer in your moment, in that day, in that time period, to get them to closing.
Absolutely.
Awesome. Megan, is there anything else that you would like to share with us that I've not asked you today?
I think you guys have covered most of it, but if anybody ever has any questions, I'm definitely open to talk, and I'm happy to tell them anything I can help with.
Okay, awesome. Well, I appreciate you being willing to share your story. I know sometimes it can be intimidating to come on here and have your face on Facebook Live. Yet I really appreciate you sharing your story and the task that you've done, and congratulations on all your success. We're happy for you.
Thank you. I appreciate the opportunity to have a conversation.
You're welcome, Megan. All right. Well, it was so nice to meet you, and I'm looking forward to watching your continued success. We'll talk soon, okay?
All right. Thank you.
Thank you, Megan. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.